Well, good evening, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Whoever's in the chat box, give me a reading on my volume. Tell me how I sound. We're live this evening from my home studio. Got some things I want to talk about. A lot of things I've been researching today about some future Nikon. Thank you, Rodney. Some future Nikon gear that's coming up. And actually what prompted this live stream tonight was an email I got. Hello, Terrell. Thank you very much. Thank you for that thumbs up on the sound. Yeah, so what I wanted to, I got an email this week from Nikon, and I'm going to show it to you real quick. And it's another, let me see if I can find a place to show it to you. I think it's right here. They've got a refurbished sale going on from now till August 27th, which is another 5 days. I get these emails pretty frequently because I signed up on their website to get them. And if you wanted to keep up with these, you could do the same thing that I do. Hey Matt, how you doing tonight? Anyways, what I wanted to show you is there's some pretty good deals going on right now in the refurbished stuff, and we're just going to look at ones. One of the categories that I'm always interested in is the DSLR category, what they have in refurbished. Okay, and we're going to go take a look at that real quick. And it really is amazing to me that they are still making the D7500. I don't understand that. I really just don't, okay? But if you want to pick up one that is probably better than factory new, because as we all know, these refurbished items will usually be better after they've been gone through by a technician. $562 for a refurbished D7500. That to me is a good price, really is. If you want to pick up a D850, $1519, so that's pretty good too. I suspect it's going to come to a time when we are not going to see these DSLRs on the refurbished list anymore. These are the only three cameras that you can still buy new from B&H in a DSLR. The D7500, the D780, and the D850. They're still making those, or they have a big stockpile of them somewhere. I don't know what the deal is on that. Anyways, if you're wanting to get a camera, I'm going to make a suggestion to you. You better do it before September the 1st, okay? And I'll get to that part in just a minute. So let's go back here. Let's see what happened here. Let's go look at some mirrorless options on the mirrorless camera full frames. See what they got for refurbished. You can get a refurbished Z50 Mark II for $655. New, that's without a lens. The new is $905, so it's about $250 savings there. You can buy a ZF if you want, a refurbished one for $1367. I think the new ones are right at $2,000. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And then the Z6iis are still out there if you want to buy one. I still got one. It's a nice camera. In fact, this one here this refurbished one is $989, and I believe if you go in there, you can, where it says multiple promotions right there, you can go down in there and look, and they usually have some combos, where they have a lens included. I'm not seeing a whole lot right here. Let's go on back to that other page. Anyways, $989 for a Z6ii. The Z6ii is still a great landscape camera. It's not a wildlife, rig at all, but it does take very good videos. It has an excellent low light performance. I still have one, okay? My favorite lens on the Z6ii is the 50 millimeter. That's my favorite lens. In fact, if I'm going to carry a full frame around town, it's not going to be the Z8, that's for sure. That's just way too heavy to carry around town. And I'm really not liking the Z50 a whole lot for carrying around town, but I do use it occasionally. I used it last night. But the Z6ii with the 50mm lens, you cannot ask for a sharper picture. All right, it's really cool. I used it on a car show last month down in downtown Crossville, and took a lot of photographs. And I had to back up, you know, a couple feet and wait for people to quit walking in front of me, and all that good stuff. I couldn't get real close to the car, but it took really nice images. Anyway, the Z6ii is an option. Shoot, they got a Z5ii on Refurbished already. Okay, that's amazing right there to have that on refurb. They just come out with that camera. If you want to pick up a Z6ii, you can get one for $1,700. And the old Z50, you know, it doesn't have the good auto-focusing stuff in it that like the Z50 Mark II. It's $455. I would spend $200 more and get the Z52 if I was looking for a small camera to carry around. And it's a small camera. Okay, let me get mine real quick. I'll show you. This is the one I carried around last night in downtown Crossville. So this is the Z50 Mark II with the 12 to 28 PZ lens. Now, I like this lens and I don't like this lens, okay? The thing with this lens here, it's a power zoom, and you cannot see the zoom that you're doing except in the display on the back or in the viewfinder. And that kind of drives me crazy a little bit, okay? I like to see what's going on, and you know, you got to look at the electronics part of this to see that. But it's a good lens. I'm going to show you some photographs later on I took with this last night. And I took with that 12 to 28, and I also used the 50mm 1.8 on the Z50 Mark II. Let's go on down here and see what else they got. A Z7 II, Z9 for $4,000. Z5s. So they got a lot of refurbished stuff. Okay, no wonder why they're having a sale. They're trying to clean out the house. If you want to pick up a Z8, $28.99. So anyways, let's go back and see what else we got on this. Get back to where I was. They've got some DX options, mirrorless DX options. Then they've got some F-mount lenses. One thing missing from this refurbished sale is Z-mount lenses. I don't see any on here at all on the refurbished sale. These are some pretty good offerings here for F-mount lenses. If you've still got a D500 or a D7500 or even a D5500, one of those, all these lenses will pretty much work on there except this AFD lens right here. That would be a manual focus lens on some of the cheaper consumer cameras, but this will focus just fine on a prosumer body or even a D500 or a D7500. Any of them that's got the screw drive on them, that would focus just fine on there. And that 50mm 1.8D refurbished is $119. Now I'm not looking for one of those, okay, but if I was, that would be a pretty good price. There's a lens on here that I used to have. Let's see what else they got down here on the F-mounts. You know, I'm mistaken here. If you look right here, here's a 14 to 24 Z-mount. Okay, it didn't say anything about Z-mounts back there. That is on refurbished for $1957. Excuse me. What else they got here? They got a 24mm AFS if you're looking for a wide angle. And here's a Z-mount 17 to 28 f2.8. That's a full frame lens, so that's a nice lens. 863. And this lens right here, this AFP DX 10 to 20, this one right here at the bottom I'm looking at, okay? Was that Kevin, I think is your name, Nature Photo Studios, Kevin. Is that Kevin? Yeah, I think it's Kevin. How you doing, Kevin? I did get your email, and I did get your pictures for next Wednesday night. Anyways, this lens right here, this 10 to 20 variable aperture is a good lens. If you don't have a wide angle lens for a DSLR, this is f-mount, and you're looking for one, I had this lens at one time, and it is a good lens. It is a nice performer. With the firmware upgrade, it'll perform very well on a D5500, D5600, 7100, 72, all the way on up the line to the D500. You know, it's a crop sensor, so you can put it on a D850, but you're not, you're not really gaining anything from that. They have a full frame version right above here. If you have a full frame camera, this one right here, no, that's a DX. I'm sorry, that's not full frame. I don't see any full frame wide angles. The closest wide angle full frame would be a 16 to 35, I believe, f4. Anyways, this lens for $167.97 is a nice lens to have. It has VR. It's an AFP, which is a piezo focusing motor thingamajig. You know, most of those kit lenses, like the 18 to 55 over here, it had the P on it. It'll work, okay? I've used it before. I've also used it with the FTZ adapter on the Nikon Z50 Mark II crop sensor body. It works just fine on it, okay? Got some really good pictures with it. Let me make a note here. When we get into the picture portion of this program, I'll show you some pictures I took with this 10 to 20 on a Z50 Mark II. We'll go over here to page 2 and see what else they got. Let's see if anything jumps out at me. Now this 24 to 200 is an interesting lens. It's not as sharp as the 24 to 120 f4, but the 24 to 200 has VR. And that is kind of important if you're using that with a crop sensor body, okay? That doesn't have in-body stabilization. You probably want that. VR. The 24 to 120 does not have VR. And I have not tried the 24 to 120 on my Z50 Mark II yet. I do use the 24 to 120 on my Z8. If you want to, let's see. Yeah, that's not what the one I was thinking is. Let's see if they got I wonder if they got a 500 PF in here. This is the one I was thinking of here, the 12 to 24. That's a full frame lens. It's if you don't have a wide angle zoom lens, that would be a good one. No, that's not. That's a DX. Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's a lot of money for that, I think. Because you can buy them used cheaper than that from MPB. Yeah, that's a lot of money. I wouldn't buy the 2.8E. No, that's the E. That's going to be 2.8G. 24 to 70 is too soft. You can still get a 200 to 500 for $900. That's a nice lens. And let's see what else we got. We're going to talk about this later on in the show. This 24 to 70 f4 and the 24 to 70 f2.8. You'll notice the refurbished prices on those. That is not a great big savings for that 24 to 70. It's only like, what, $80? That's not really a big savings. These are 10% off, okay? That's what those are. And let's go to the last page and see if there's any big lenses on there. I'm looking for the 100 to 400. I don't see one. Was that back on this page here? No. 200 to 500, 600, f4, 800. Yeah. Anyways, that's what they got going on in refurbish. So you can get on the Nikon site and sign up for those and get. But here's what I think. I think that we are going to stop seeing a whole lot of refurbished stuff. I may be wrong. They may have a big stockpile, and I don't know where they get these refurbished items. I don't know if they're return box, open box, or through the dealerships or whatever. I remember one time when they were selling the Z50 in the very beginning, when they first came out with them, they had a 30-day, Nikon had a 30-day money-back guarantee. Well, I picked up one of those from Roberts, and I used it for about 2 weeks, and I was not happy with it, and I sent it back, and they gave me my money back. Okay, so I'm sure that's where these refurbs are coming from. It's from open box. Let me catch up on the chat box here. Yeah, that would, Rodney, that would be a good lens. Now it's not a, it's not a fast lens, it's variable aperture, but if you're doing landscapes with it, that kind of work, or you're on the tripod or whatever, and you got a low light situation, it's a fine lens. I've done a lot of waterfall photography with it. We get into the photo part of it, we'll pull some of those up if you're interested in seeing those. Ray Saldano is in the house. Wide angle is my least used lens, but when I need one, I'm glad I lug it around. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Ray, I am starting to, I've got a 14-30 f4, and I'm finding myself liking it a little less each time I take it out. There's a lot of distortion in it, especially if you're around architecture. Now, if you're out in nature, landscapes or whatever, or wide vistas, it's not a big deal. But I'm really liking my 24-120 f4 better as a landscape lens. Okay, I'm getting ready to go out in October for a week up in Virginia, and that's going to be my main landscape rig is the Z8 and the 24-120. Yeah, Ray's right. They do those trade-in programs if you want to trade in your gear. I'm not too sure how that compares to wholesaling it to MPB or one of those places. I don't know if they give you any more for it at Nikon or not. But anyways, I just wanted to touch base on that real quick. And so I heard today that we are in for another price increase from Nikon, and this is on Nikon Rumors. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick, if I can find it. Okay, here we are on Nikon Rumors on the website. I heard this on a live show today with Graves of Westminster. Let me get this out of the way. It's confirmed. It says Nikon USA price increase on September the 1st. This sale ends on the 27th. The 1st is a week from Monday. Anyways, they're talking about it here, and they said Nikon has exercised extreme patience as the tariff landscape remained uncertain since April. Yes, a handful of prices increased slightly in June for items made in China, but the Nikon promotions have remained strong all summer long, and pricing on the majority of Nikon body and lens prices have remained consistent. Okay. And I remember when they announced the price increase in June, I think it was June 21st, I was waiting to see it hit. Well, it never really hit, okay? In fact, there were still some discounts out there at B&H and stuff. It says, but on September 1st, Nikon is being forced to make a price adjustment because of tariffs and the overall business environment. We have increased our inventory on every single Nikon product available. So if you're thinking about adding a lens or camera body to your arsenal or gear, now is the time to do it. You can beat the price increase now through August 31st. Nikon prices will rise on September the 1st, 2025, and all current instant savings promotions will also end on August the 31st. Therefore, the price differences on September the 1st will be very real, okay? So that came from Service Photo, and they paid the tax there and stuff. But that is an announcement made from Nikon, and it is coming, I guess. The one they announced in May that was supposed to take effect June the 21st. I guess with the uncertainty of tariffs and what's going on in that area, especially the stuff that's being made in China, I guess, and coming over, that's what's got all this started again. I thought we were behind all that, really. Let me check the comments here. Yeah, Keith, Kevin, I seen you had a D780. That's a cool little camera, by the way. It's really a I talked about it once before. It's a hybrid between a mirrorless when you're in live view and a DSLR when you're not. Ray says he's never going to get a 400 2.8 TC. I couldn't afford one, okay? I've seen one. I ran into a guy at the wetlands one time, and he had the TC with the TC on it, and a Z8, and he was shooting a Hinga out there. Yeah, it would be interesting to see what that 400 TC 2.8 ends up being, Ray. It really will. Let me get I lost my chat box here somewhere. Anyways, that's the second thing I wanted to cover. And I did hear today, and this is maybe true, maybe not, in coincidence with the new lens release that was announced today, the 24-70 f2.8S version 2, Mark II. So Nikon did announce a new lens release. It's available for pre-order. I think it's supposed to be shipped sometime in September or October timeframe. But in the conversation I was in today, they are some very good Nikon sources are predicting that a Z9 Mark II is on the horizon. And there's a lot of things that make you think about this, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But the expected announcement is sometime in October or November. Now, what is it going to cost? Who the hell knows, okay? It might be $7,000 for that camera. I don't know. The 24-70 is your holy grail, Ray, the 2.8. Anyways, Nikon dropped a new lens today, or yesterday, whenever it was, and it is a 24-70 f2.8S version 2. And if you had a chance to look at some of the videos that are out there from some of the reputable people that have actually had their hands on one of them, it is internal zoom, unlike the version 1. We're going to be comparing this to version 1, the one that's out there right now. It's an internal zoom, so it'll be better weather sealing and better for not collecting dust when it breathes. I see. He's got the first version of the 24-70. They have removed the top plate OLED, which is something I don't ever understand. Personally, it was a waste. And from what I understand, they're probably going to phase that thing out of all the lenses it's on. So I think when you go to a version 2 of a certain lens, you're not going to have that OLED display on top. I have it on I forget which lens I had it on. One of my lenses had it on there, and I didn't even look at it, you know, basically. Never really looked at it much. This lens is going to have an AM switch for going into manual focus. It's going to have a focus limiter switch also. And here's a new feature to it, and I'm interested to see how this works. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I had it up here earlier. Let's see. Let me find it here. I must have, let me get rid of that one. Let's go to Nikon USA. Just go right to the source here. So I got the Nikon site up, and here's what they say about this lens. It's got a new tactile feedback. Where's that at down here? I was trying to see what ring it was on. They mentioned it today in a couple of the videos. Right here, custom control ring with optional click for precise incremental adjustments like selecting a specific ISO setting. Clicking tells you how many steps you've adjusted. Okay, so that's for that programmable ring up against the lens mount. That right here, this ring right here. I think that one right there is the one they're putting a tactile click on it, so you can turn it off and on. There's going to be a switch on the lens, and that should be pretty cool, okay, to have that. And some of the other things are the front focusing ring is now rubberized versus metal in the version 1. And it's coming with a 77mm filter thread instead of an 82mm. It has a closer focusing distance, and they go over that in this this advertisement right down here, than the version 1. And what's really cool, okay, it's made in Japan, but what's really cool is this lens hood. Let me show you this right here. Let's see if we can get that pulled up. This lens hood's got a little door on it, and apparently that's so you can open that little door up while your lens hood is on and turn your polarizer filter if you're using it for a landscape. That's kind of clever, I guess. I don't know if I'd use it or not, but that's kind of clever. Normally, and I may be wrong about doing this or not, but normally when I'm doing waterfall photography stuff, I do not have a lens hood on. Okay, I'm not worried about that kind of issue with my lenses. I have a 14-30 that's got a whopping 82mm lens hood. I don't even carry it with me. Okay, it sits here at home somewhere. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know what I think about lens hoods, and everybody has their own opinion, but I think lens hood just makes you look bigger. Okay, makes you look like a pro. So you put your lens hood on there, you're supposed to look like a pro. It has a, it's only 675 grams versus 805 grams. It is the lightest 24 to 72.8. It has a newer, simpler optical design. In the apertures, it's got 11 blade aperture versus a 9, which is supposed to have better bokeh rendering. And has the new type focus motors, faster focusing for the rumored Z9 II. Now that was mentioned today. Apparently, I think they're going to start producing these version 2 lenses, and they've got those new SSVM. They call it Silky Swift Voice Coil AF motor. That's what they call it. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to start producing these version 2 lenses ahead of the Z9 II. Okay, I'm thinking the Z9 II is a reality. Have you heard anything, Ray? Oh gosh, I got to catch up here. Ray said, I would love that optional click. That optional click, I set that ring to EV comp. I do too, okay? I like setting it to EV comp. That's a cool feature, and it's a quick way of changing it, but if you knock it, you don't know, you can't feel anything. Is he real? The 105 f2.8 macro lens also has the digital, that's which lens it is. Hold on one second, okay? Thank you there, Izzy. He's right about that. Here's my 105 macro, and there it is. I knew one of my lenses had it on there. So yeah, it's totally useless to me. I don't even use it. Now you can turn it off and on. There's a button to turn it off and on, but I don't even look at it. Okay, I just don't use that thing. These were added to some lenses in the early stages of Nikon making the Z lenses. The 70-200 had it, I know that, the Z mount. Terrell says Canon has been doing the door on the lens hood for decades now. Okay. Ray said, I've lost a couple of volleyballs, but the ball hit. I've lost a couple of volleyball, but the ball hit that and cracked it, but didn't give a direct hit to the glass. I see what you're saying. So what Ray is saying is the lens hood saved his ass, okay? Where a volleyball was coming at him and the lens hood deflected the hit onto the front of the lens or the filter if he had one on there. Terrell's right. So yeah, so when I'm out doing landscapes, unless I'm putting a circular polarizer on the front, I don't even put a UV filter on my lenses anymore. I used to, every single one of them, and the purpose was to protect them. But now, I don't even bother with them. This new lens, okay, is a whopping $2,800. The version 1 was only $2,100, so it's going up in price, and it'll be interesting to see if it goes up after September the 1st. Some people are saying no, that they've already built in the tariff increase on it. I don't know if that's true or not. So after September the 1st, it'll be interesting to see what the price of these lenses end up being. And I will definitely do another show comparing new prices to to used prices to wholesale prices like I've done in the past. I did one last Thursday comparing to MPB, a bunch of lenses and bodies and stuff. I do that every once in a while, and I'll probably do it again right after September 1st to see what the price increases are. The question was asked today, why did they come out with the version 2? And I kind of answered that a little bit, and it was probably for the faster focus motors. And they will be needed purportedly on the yet to be announced Nikon Z9 II. Okay, so it sounds like Nikon's getting ready to release another camera body, you know, in the near future. Again, that's a rumor, okay, but it's a pretty strong rumor from what I understand. And here's what else I found out today about some of these other lenses. Oh, there's my chat box. Hold on, it's back. Yeah. Here's another thing I was listening to today. We need to look for Nikon to announce a bunch of these second generation lenses, like the 14 to 24 2.8, the 70 to 200 2.8. And they will have these faster focusing motors in there to go along with the Z9 II. Now these lenses, the 14 to 24 2.8, the 70 2.8, the 24 to 70 2.8, those, I consider those pro lenses. Okay, if you were a prosumer or serious hobbyist like most of us are, you probably wouldn't opt for a 14 to 24 2.8 just based on sheer cost. The 70 to 200 can be bought cheaper. If you want to pick up a 70 to 180 f2.8, it can be picked up cheaper. And I believe that 70 to 180, if I'm right, somebody correct me here, I believe it's actually made by Tamron and rebadged by Nikon. I think Nikon had them make it. I think that's why you can't find a 70 to 180 Tamron in a Z-mount lens. I may be wrong about that, but I think I read that somewhere. One thing that was noted today is the 400 millimeter and the 600 millimeter Z lenses already have this new SSVCM focus motors in them. They were already built with those in there. So it sounds to me like Nikon's been planning this for quite a while. Okay. Yeah, let's see what else. It would be nice, in my opinion, it would be nice if they would put this SSVCM focusing motors in the 180 to 600, okay? But that's not a pro lens. That's a prosumer lens or a serious hobbyist lens, the 180 to 600. Ray says, you'll get it if you have, yeah. Well, I don't have gas anymore because I am retired. So I have to save up for my camera gear now. Used to be before I didn't give it a second thought, but now I do not have that disposable income, so I have to keep what I have. I am saving though for a new lens, and if you want to know what it is, ask me and I'll tell you. There's still some gaps in some of Nikon's lenses that some people are wishing for. I don't know if they'll ever do them or not, but there was mention today of a 200 millimeter f2.8, you know, prime lens, maybe a 180 2.8, and they could be in the macro thing. And I guess a lot of portrait people are looking for a 85 millimeter 1.4 Z lens because there isn't one. You have to go to an F mount to get that lens, okay? Terrell says, I learned something new the other day. Canon L lenses are so expensive, the front element is not glass. It's a crystal grown in a lab. Is that good or bad? I don't know. So you're saying it's a fake lens? I've never had a 200 f2, Ray. Never owned one. I remember my first my first zoom lens back in 2000, I had a Nikon D1X. Let me get a cup of coffee here. I had a Nikon D1X. That was my first DSLR camera body. Cost $5,000, which is for the body, back in 2000. And I picked up an 80 to 200, 2.8. Was it 2.8? I think it was. And it was a big lens, but I loved it. It was a nice lens. It was cheaper than the 70 to 200 back then. So I had an 80 to 200, but I never had a 200 f2. David may have. We'll have to call him up. He's not here tonight. Somebody had to go jingle his phone, tell him to get in here. So there's other options to consider if you're thinking about a 24 to 70 2.8, and this would be more for the prosumer people. Okay, but the 24 to 120 f4 is a very solid performer, and it's one I would consider if I was a landscape photographer. In fact, it's probably right now one of my main lenses for landscape photography. It fits very well on the Z6ii, Z6ii, Z8, Z9. It's a stellar performer, very sharp lens. You know, even the Z7ii would make a good fit for that. I had the 24 to 70 f4. I bought it in kit form with my first Z6ii. At one time I owned two Z6iis, by the way. When I bought my Z8, I bought it in kit form and got the 24 to 120. After shooting with it, I decided I did not need the 24 to 70 any longer, so I sold it. It is a bigger lens, okay, it's a little bit heavier, and but it's a great landscape lens, and you got such a wide range to fill in there. Now, you know, when you're looking at the 24 to 120, if you're thinking of a lens like that for your mirrorless, you can't compare it to the G version. The G version it sucked. It was too soft, and you know, you could buy them really cheap on the used market. The G version of the 24 to 120. I remember a friend of mine here was trying to get rid of some of his gear, and he heard me mention about a 24 to 120, and he contacted me. He said, "Hey, you want to buy mine? I'll sell it to you for $100. Well, after I did some research with it, I said, no thanks. I don't think I want that one. Terrell says, crystal elements allows for superior correction of chromatic aberration, better light transmission in ultraviolet and infrared spectra, and a reduction in lens weight compared to optical glass. Well, it sounds like to me like it's a it's like a phase Fresnel lens on the Nikon end. Makes it lighter. So it's actually better, Terrell, not worse. Ray said he still has one. You still have a 200. Which one you have, Ray? 24 to, I don't even know which one he meant. Oh, you're talking about the G version? Okay. 24 to 120 f4 G version is what he has. F mount. Anyways, what do you think about it? Is it soft, or do you think it's pretty good, Ray? So, you know, that's basically it for that new lens announcement. I'm not going to buy it. I don't know too many people that I know that are going to buy it, except Ray. He may buy it. But he's a pro, okay? He has a use for it. He said, yep, it is an old D800, and he used it as a webcam. That's cool. So, you know, talking about landscape, I'm going to tell you what my favorite landscape trio is. If you have a Nikon Z system camera and you are into landscape photography, you definitely should have the 14 to 30 f4 in your purse, just for a number of reasons. I used to use it a lot, okay, but then I discovered the 24 to 120 from a landscape perspective, and just getting that compression, you know, if you can get out to 120, you know, with the Z8 or one of those camera bodies, the compression on the landscapes is better. And then the third lens I would consider would be the 100 to 400. Now, I can't talk about that lens because I don't own it too much, but I know Phil does, and he loves it. along with this 600 PF. I think the 600 PF is his favorite lens, and the 100-400 might be right after it there on the Nikon mounts. The only thing about the 14-30, and that really doesn't matter too much, but the 24-120 is it doesn't have VR. So, you know, you have to use an in-body stabilized camera body. If you try to put the 24-120 on something like the Z50 Mark II or the Z50, one of those camera bodies, you're not going to have stabilization. It'll probably perform okay in adequate light situation, but if it gets into a low light situation, you may have some trouble with it. That was a talk today too, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. Let me don't jump the gun here. Along with those three lenses, the 14-30, 24-120, and the 100-400, if you wanted to add wildlife to your landscape repertoire, then I'd go ahead and pick up the 180-600. A lot of people don't know this, but the 180-600 Nikon lens is not at its sharpest wide open. Unlike the 500 PF, the 500 PF is sharpest at f5.6, but according to Photography Life, the 180-600 is sharpest at f8. That's where I shoot my 180-600 is at f8. That is the sharpest aperture according to their testing. And the 180-600 pairs nicely with the Z6ii, the Z8, and the Z9. I use it on my Z8. I use it on my Z50. If I use it on my Z50, the crop sensor body, then I got an effective reach out there at 900 millimeters. Of course, you got to be tripod mounted at that point. No, you don't. I'm sorry, you don't have to be tripod mounted, but the VR on the lens will kick in. So Ray says I'll get a 35 1.2 before the new 24-70. What would you use that 35 1.2 for? Terrell's looking at the Sigma RF12 1.4. You gotta, yeah. See, that's what's you know, Sigma and Nikon, you know, on the Z side of it, there's not a whole lot of Sigma lenses for the Z side. If you step back to the DSLRs, there is basketball and street, volleyball and portraits. Okay, yeah. I heard Ray. I heard you like to use a long lens on your street photography. Something about you being a little shy. That was just something David mentioned to me one day. We were talking when we was walking around. Not about you. We were just talking about, you know, being shy in street photography. Let's see. And here's another thing too. The 180-600 when it first came out was, I think you could get it for right at $1,800. It's gone up in price. It's gone up a couple $100. They raised the price on it last year for some reason. I guess because it's so popular. I got mine early on when it first came out. Okay, now we're going to get on to the next subject, okay, which is the Nikon D500 replacement, okay. Hey Ray, I am too, okay. I mean, I'm a little shy too, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better at talking to people, and I have had a few people ask me who I was or what I was doing. I remember the first time somebody asked me that, I was standing in front of this brand new remodeled flower shop, and I was taking some photographs of it just for documentation purposes. I do a lot of documentation like David does around town. And the guy pulled up in his car, and he got out with some stuff in his hand, and he seen me set up there with a tripod, and he said, "Can I help you?" I says, "No," I said, "I'm just taking some pictures." I said, "I'm a local photographer." So here's what I do. I have business cards with me. They're very simple. They got my name, they got my email address, you know, they got the information on there. And when somebody does that, I just let them know that I'm a local photographer, and I just document things. And here's my business card, you know, and after I give them my business card, they're cool, okay? I had another guy did this to me. I was walking down this side street in town on a Saturday, and there was a brick building here, and I was actually taking some photographs around the building there, and I thought they were closed, and they were. It was an accounting office. Well, the husband was leaving the building from the side of the building, and he pulled up to the stop sign and he'd seen me. And I was just walking real slow down the sidewalk, and he left, and he went around the block and come around behind me and stopped and rolled down his window. And he wanted to know what I was doing. And I told him, and then after we talked for a few minutes, he was cool. So most people are pretty cool with it, you know. I've never had anybody, you know, get ugly with me, or, you know. I met a young man last night. I was downtown in front of the theater downtown, getting ready to do a video for my other channel. And getting a video together for this channel, I'm sorry. And this boy pulled up with a low, like a tow truck, a ramp truck, and another pickup truck on top of it. They're both beaters. And he gets out, and he's got his phone, and he's walking around trying to take a picture of his truck. So I'm across the street taking a picture of him, taking a picture of his truck, and he sees me, and he stands back, and he gives me a big thumbs up like that. Well, I took his picture. Well, then he comes across the street, and we got to talking, and I was recording at the same time. So in order to capture his information, because I wanted to send him the picture, I said, what's your name? And he told me. I said, you got a phone number? I'll text you this picture. So he spoke the phone number while I was recording, so I didn't have to write nothing down. I just came home and played the recording, and I had his information. So I edited his picture really quickly, and I texted it to him, and he was tickled to get it, okay? So, you know, most people are very approachable. I've done some street photography with the camera club the same way. I got some photographs where there was a girl sitting in the park, and she was reading a book, and she seen me, and I was with another photographer. We were walking together, and I stopped. I said, would you mind if I took your portrait? And she just kind of looked at me, and she says, no. And she was looking at me, said, no. I said, don't look at me. I said, go back to doing what you were doing and pretend like I'm not even standing here. So when I took her photograph, I gave her my card, and I said, if you check me out on my Instagram account, and I'll post your picture, and you can grab it from there. And she did, and she thanked me for it. So it's pretty cool, you know. So yeah, people are always approachable, but look at me, I'm just a personal type of guy. Yeah, I've been with David, but the day David and I went, it was my introduction to Chattanooga, and I love Chattanooga. It's a great town to photograph in. And the day David and I, we just walked around, and David took me on a 6-mile walk, okay? It was a long day. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I don't think we really photographed any people that day. We were more into the architecture and stuff, or David was doing some of his documentation. Terrell said, I've had the cops call on me once. They rolled up, seen what I was doing, and just left. So here's the deal now. I have been up early in the morning for the last couple of weeks. I go walking every morning right at sunrise. I go do my 10,000 steps, my 5 miles. But I've been getting up earlier and going into downtown Crossville to do some nightscape photography. So I've been down there twice now when I seen Deputy, look at the thumbs up. I've been down there twice now when I seen deputy sheriffs drive by and city cops. And I was down there the other morning, about 4:30 in the morning, taking a picture of this theater for my next video, my next nightscape video. And I was going out to the middle of the street and shooting. Now, on Sunday nights or Sunday mornings, there ain't nobody on the streets, okay? But this was on a weekday, and apparently everybody goes to the chicken house to work at 5 o'clock in the morning because traffic started coming down the road on me, and I would have to run out in the middle of the street, set my tripod down, level the tripod camera, take my HDR bracketed shots, and move back off. And I had to watch for traffic at the same time. So I wear a yellow safety vest, okay? Anyways, I went out in the middle of the street, and just as I was getting ready to set the tripod down, here come 2 cars. So I just continued on to the other side. When I got to the other side, I turned around, and there was a female deputy sheriff driving down Main Street, and she slowed way down to look at me. And I thought, you know, if she'd come back and talk to me, I said, hey, can you buy me a cup of coffee or something? But she didn't stop. She just kind of looked at me and probably thought, what's he doing? And he kept on moving down the road. So, you know, I've never had the cops stop me. Thanks, Terrell. Yeah, I've got another one I'm working on the theater one that I did. I'm working on that one for the next video for that series. Anyway, back to the Nikon D500 replacement. Okay, from what I from what I hear from Steve Lamb. Now, Steve Lamb is an old-time photographer from England, but from what I hear, that even though that Nikon is being quiet about this subject, okay, they have heard the masses, and from what I understand, some insiders believe, these are Nikon insiders, some Nikon insiders believe there will be a D500 replacement. The problem is, I think, is it will need to have IBIS on a crop sensor, and they haven't done that yet. And according to the sources research, one of the reasons the current crop sensor DX bodies do not have IBIS is because of the body size. You look at the Nikon Z50 Mark II, it's made to be a compact body, okay? And if they go adding IBIS to this body, then this body is going to change. You can just see how small it is in my hands, okay? It's very small, all right? See that? I mean, it's only like that tall with the lens hood on it. If I took the lens hood off, it'd be like that, you know, and it's only that wide as my 2 fingers, you know. I could barely do that to the Z8. So, yeah, they would probably have to change the bodies on the crop sensors, which would make them, you know, different. But I would think that the D500 would have to be a crop sensor, and it would most likely have to have IBIS in it. So there could be technology reasons that they haven't done this yet, but what they're saying is the D500, what I'm thinking is the D500 replacement may end up being in a body like a Z6ii, but only with the crop sensor in it. You know, Canon's kind of like the same way, isn't it? You know, their bodies are pretty much all the same size. Their DSLR bodies and stuff, or their mirrorless bodies are kind of all the same size, but the sensors are different in them. I mean, isn't that about true, Terrell? You know, maybe we'll see something next year. You know, if Nikon comes out with one, they will surely sell a buttload of them. And I am positive Nikon knows about this. They have heard the masses. They just haven't produced yet. Plus, they probably have limited resources for engineering and production lines and that kind of stuff. So, you know, they have to focus on what's selling now. But, you know, it could be that we would see one next year. And here's me being retired with no disposable income. I probably won't own one. See, Terrell says Canon has IBIS on the R7, which is a small body crop sensor. Okay, so the R7, the R10, and the R50 crop sensors are smaller bodies than their full frame. Well, okay, so you know it's amazing that they do have IBIS on the R7. Okay, so you know that's a big deal right there. Anyways, let's see what else we got to look at here. Let me check out my computer screen. I already did that. I already did that. I don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Okay, so what we're going to do right now, I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit, fill in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. I'm hoping to maybe make this a weekly thing. I'm not sure, you know, if I'll be able to talk about enough things. Let me get my screen over here so I can see. Hello, T-Bone in the Wild. How you doing tonight? Good evening, Doug. I'm on the wait list at Murphy's Camera for the Pro Body APS-C. Yeah, Murphy's Camera is great, okay? I buy from them. Everybody I know buys from them. If you live in Tennessee, you're fortunate, okay? Doug, where do you live? What state do you live in? I know for us in Tennessee, we do not have to pay sales tax on the stuff coming out of Kentucky. So I don't know where Doug lives at, and maybe he's got the same situation. But you know, when B&H started charging sales tax, I switched over to Roberts because they weren't charging sales tax. And then all of a sudden, one year they started charging sales tax. Okay, and then I didn't have anywhere else to go except back to B&H or Roberts. I just stayed that way until I found out from Phil and Tim about Murphy's, okay? And everything I've gotten in the last 2 or 3 years, the Z8, the Z6ii's, lenses, all the lenses I bought new have come out of Murphy's. Yeah, so you probably still got to pay sales tax up there, Doug. But us people down here in Tennessee, and they may have changed. I haven't bought anything from them this since probably March or April. But I don't understand how they don't charge sales tax for us people in Tennessee. I don't understand how they get away with it. It has something to do with being the next state over, I guess. I don't know. Might have something to do with cigarette taxes. I don't know about that either. But anyways, yeah. I'm going to show you some photographs I took last night with the Z50 Mark II, and then I want to show a couple photographs to Rodney of the 10 to 20 AFP lens that I've done. So let me get Lightroom fired up here for you. And T-Bone in the Wild, where do you live? Did you buy it from Murphy's? Okay, I've got my Lightroom pulled up, and here's 3 photographs I took last night. 2 of them have been edited and 1 of them have not. And I'm going to start by looking at this one right here. This one right here was shot with the Z50 Mark II and the 50mm 1.8S lens, okay? And you be the judge, okay? I think it looks plenty sharp enough. That's that 50mm 1.8S lens on the Z50 Mark II crop sensor. So your effective 50 was what, 75? Yeah, so it makes it a 75 1.8. I think it looks plenty sharp enough. One of the things here is this is handheld, 1/500th of a second. I shot that lens, that 50mm at 5.6 and ISO 2500. Let me see if I put any noise reduction in. I did. I put a little noise reduction in there, as you can see right here, and just a basic edit. Put a little vignette on it, just a little bit of vignette. You know, if you want to see, I just wanted to show you how good that lens is, especially on a little crop sensor camera. The next photograph, this was shot with the Z50 Mark II, but using the 12 to 28 PZ lens on there. It was 1/320th of a second, f5.6 at ISO 1800. It has had some distortion correction done to it. That 12 to 28 really distorts a lot. And if I go down here to those settings, you can see them right here. I can turn those off if you want to see it without the distortion control, and that's with the distortion control, without and with. That's the best I can do with that without skewing this tower right here. So that was just a test shot I wanted to do on that, and I wanted to show that to you. And this one here has not been edited. This was shot with the 12 to 28. What I wanted to show you was the edit on this because it was shot at ISO 10,000. Now, from what I understand on the Z50 Mark II, you can crank it up to about 10,000 and clean it up pretty significantly. If we look at the photograph right here, you can see, I'm gonna bring up full screen, you can actually see the noise in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the corrections on it. First off, I'm going to apply just a basic edit by hitting the auto button. And let me select the sky by using the masking tool, sky, and we'll bring the exposure down just a little bit so we can reveal those clouds that are up there. You see those? And bring the highlights down a hair, and maybe add just a little bit of black to it for contrast. You can see the camera strap in the top of the frame up here. Okay, so I'm just going to put that little mask on the sky. But what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to click on the denoise button. And I want you to see how well this cleans up at 50%. I think it's 50%, yeah. Pretty nice, huh? and that's coming out of that crop sensor body. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and put a mask on the building part. I'm going to select a color range and click on this stone right here, and we're going to darken that just a little bit. So pull the darkening down, the exposure down, bring the highlights down, and I'm going to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of clarity for some contrast, and we'll add sharpening to the photograph later. Now I want to select this area right here, and I'm not sure which one's going to do it for me. Let's try subject. There you go. This area right here, I want to bring the shadows up in that area so you can see a little bit more. And we'll leave the exposure where it's at for that one. Let me try to change the temperature just a hair, maybe a little more saturation. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is straighten that a little bit. I'm going to try the auto straightener, and it did a little bit. I wasn't perfectly composed with this. I was just kind of standing under this church, and I thought it looked kind of neat. I'm going to add a little bit of sharpening, and I'll bring the sharpening here so you can see it. Watch this area right here. Okay, and I'm going to hit my sharpening preset. And these are my normal landscape sharpening presets in Lightroom. Very seldom do I go out to Topaz and do the sharpening there, only if I'm working on a bird. If I'm working on architecture or landscape or whatever, I just use the sharpening in Lightroom. So, you know, you can take a look, and it's not bad for a handheld shot. A little bit of noise right here still, but remember it was at 10,000 ISO. There's still a little bit of noise up in here. So you can change that. You can increase this slider. We can try that. Watch this area right here, this brown area. Let's take it up to about 65 or 70. It's cleaning it up a little bit more. Let's go a little bit higher with that and see what it does. Yeah, it's about all gone right now. So that actually did a pretty good job with that. Okay. If you want to do a comparison, that's reference view. Sorry, that's wrong. This is before, and this is after. Okay, you can see the difference there. Let me see if I can get that full. I can't. Before on the left and after on the right. So as you can see, you know, a Z50 Mark II with a 12 to 28 lens and 10,000 ISO is not a bad image. So T-Bone did not pay tax. He's in Nashville. That's why. Oh, Unique Photo in New Jersey doesn't charge tax? That's interesting. Okay, I never heard of that place. Are they a big? Are they reputable? Are they trustworthy? Okay. They're not like Abe's of Maine, are they? I got to write that down. Check them out. Even though I don't have any money, I can't buy anything. Okay. Well, okay, we've been on here for about an hour. Okay, I don't have anything else I want to talk about. I need to kind of develop myself a little bit. Like I said, I'd like to do this on a weekly basis for a while and see how it turns out. I am going to keep up with what's going on with Nikon, being that the 1st is a week from Monday. We'll just have to wait and see what they're going to do with their prices and stuff, and I'll figure out some stuff to talk about next week. Oh, one more thing I want to tell you about. Let me see if I can get this fired up here real quick. Let me turn on the Z8 and let me see if I can show you this real quick. Yeah, so we're looking at the back of my Z8, and there's something I wanted to show you, something I wanted to mention, all right? And what I wanted to mention was, I'm going to go into the I menu, and this is what I want to show you right here. One thing that these newer bodies are doing that the older bodies did not do, and it really sucked too, is when you were using like auto bracketing like this right here, and I would tell auto bracketing to do 3 shots with 1 increment, let's say. You can change that to whatever you want, and then it wants you to hit the OK button to go back. Well, I would use the 2-second timer, and what I would do is I would set the 2-second timer to take 3 photographs. Now, if you did that, it would take all 3 bracketed shots for you. Very easy. You push the button, the camera waited 2 seconds, and then it fired off the shots. Well, what's different now is these newer bodies, the Z8, I'm pretty sure the Z9, the Z6ii probably, they all will save that 2-second timer setting now. Or they on the Z8 they do anyways. On previous bodies, DSLRs, if you did that, set the 2-second timer and you turned your camera off and you turned it back on, it forgot about it. And the reason why Nikon did it that way, they said, was in case you forgot about it, okay? So it always drove me crazy as a landscape photographer because I did a lot of bracketing when I shoot, and I would just want that setting to be there all the time. So that's what makes the Z8 so nice to shoot with, okay, in landscape environment, is that just that little feature right there when you're doing bracketing. It just makes it a whole lot better. Anyways, let's see, let me clean up the comments here. T-Bone in the Wild bought a Z9 and a 400 TC from Unique Photo in New Jersey. Rodney says he has, you over the timer setting, Rodney, you've ruined shots. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, so if you're a wildlife photographer, you don't want that. But if you're doing a lot of landscape stuff, you would, it's a nice feature to have. And, back to these pro bodies again, yeah, Rodney said yes. These shooting banks drive me crazy, okay? I would rather have user 1, user 2, user 3, the dial like the other cameras do. I wish they'd just do them all the same way. These user banks drive me crazy. Hey Walt, he still has his D500. Yes sir, I still have mine. Rodney has his. Don't let him get away, okay? A friend of mine, Lynn, she has a D500 and a 500 PF and a 200 to 500 and a bunch of stuff. She's a big wildlife photographer, and she lives here in Crossville, and her and I shoot, we photograph together quite a bit. And anyway, she had a D500 go down on her when she was in Florida this past spring. And she said it started out on the back, one of the buttons quit reacting when she pushed on it. And then over time it got a little worse and a little worse. And then the menu button wouldn't work. And she couldn't get into the menus and change anything. So I think it was a complete board failure is what probably happened. But she sent it back to Nikon. And I believe her repair cost on that was $500. It came back and it looked like brand new when it came back. I don't know what they did to it. High shutter count. I believe her shutter counts was in the 200,000s, okay? But she got it fixed, and because that was her favorite camera. She's got a D850 and a D7200, but that D500 and the D850 are her two favorite bodies. So she paid to get it fixed. And her and I had this conversation one time, okay? See you, Terrell. Her and I had, Walt, you're correct. That is the best camera body Nikon ever made. Well, the D850 is supposed to be, but the D500 for wildlife couldn't be beat. But her and I had a conversation about old gear. Walt, I'm getting ready to cover that. We had a conversation about our gear. And I told her, since you could not buy the D500 anymore, and as expensive as some of these lenses are and stuff that we're using, you're better off to every couple years just go on and send your body in for a good going through, a good cleaning, good going through, whatever, pay the $300 or $400 it costs to do that and keep that body running, okay? I don't know what a mirror box or shutter replacement costs, when your shutter dies. I don't know what that would cost. Her big issue is she had to wait over a month to get it refixed because they had to wait for parts. Now I don't know where the parts came from. I don't know what parts she was after, but she had to wait for parts is what she said. Yeah, I will too, Walt. If my D500 quits working on me, I'll send it in. I'll pay to have it done. Because right now, let me bring that up real quick. We were looking at this last week about what they were paying for. Let me get this up. Let me show you this real quick. They were paying for a D500 MPB would only give you $445 for it. Okay. If you wanted to buy one from them, a used one, they had a used one for $899. So, you know, you look at the $445 they're going to offer you for that, you'd be better off to put $400 or $500 in it. That's my opinion, okay, based on that right there. So yeah, that was the prices we looked at on the 14th on some of the stuff. We're going to do that again after the 1st of September, see what things have changed. T-Bone's got a D500 also. There you go. It's like the whole D500 club right here, you know. Around $400, yes. Okay, well, I'm going to get off here. I've been on here for about an hour and 7 minutes, 8 minutes. I don't want to run these live streams too long, then other people won't watch them. But appreciate y'all being here. Stay tuned to the channel. We got a roundtable live stream with David Sailors and Phil and Tim and Johnny Pink and Double G, Garrett and Gillette from Chicago. We do that once a month. It's coming up Wednesday evening. It's on the channel. You can find it on the channel there under the live streams. I think I start at 7 o'clock Eastern. Yeah, starts at 7 o'clock Eastern right here on this channel. And what we do is we do a Zoom meeting. If you haven't been on here, we do a Zoom meeting, but we live stream it on YouTube on my channel. And we take the questions from the live stream and we ask those in the you know, to the panel. And this week we're doing a photo review, and I have some photos already from a few of you that are in here. Good night, Walt. But if you want to submit a couple photos for the round table, okay, then, you know, seek out my email address. It's on my channel. I can't say it online because they'll flag my video and tell me I did something wrong. But look on the channel and find my email, and you can send me up to 2 photographs. Make sure they're JPEG and they're reduced file size. Try to keep the file size below 2 megabytes. Go ahead and send those to me, and we're going to try to show those on the show next Wednesday and talk about people's photographs. You know, the guys that are on the show will probably submit some photographs. I've already got a few viewers that have submitted some photographs. 2 of your best photographs, whatever you want to show. Okay, we're going to try that this week and see how that goes on the show. All right, well, listen, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to talk to y'all later, okay? We'll see yous. Night, everybody. Night, Rodney. Good night, T-Bone. Mr. Walt. Anybody else that's still in here? Hey, Greg. What's up? We're getting ready to leave. Sorry about that. Maybe next time. You can catch the replay. Don't forget Wednesday night. We'll see y'all.